you can see that pigs, depending on the microbiota they get during nursery and also just at the start of fattening, some microbiota seems to be more resilient to foodborne pathogen. The trick here is that foodborne pathogens, they're just normal habitants of an intestinal microbiota. They like it there, and the animals, they don't care all that much, unless they get Salmonella typhimurium for the pigs, of course. But the other types, yeah, they just go by and they break themselves very well into the microbiota. So our job now is more about like trying to see if you get like all association that facilitate that or association that reduce that.
Well, good day. This is Ruud Zijlstra from the University of Alberta doing another Swine podcast show for Canada. And with me today, I have Dr. Alexandre Thibodeau from the University of Montreal. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Yeah, so today we'll have a nice discussion about the relationship between gut microbiota and food safety in pigs. And I will have a couple of questions for you to go through. The first one, of course, is just to get started, could you explain the role of gut microbiota in pigs and how it influences overall animal health and performance?
We don't know actually all that much. We know that the gut microbiota is an organ in itself, right? So all these bacteria inhabiting the gut, they're crucial for health because without them, you don't have healthy animals at all. They produce vitamins, they produce fermentable byproducts that are being absorbed by the host, and they even tightly regulate immune system. So my gut microbiota is very important to have a healthy pig. The problem is we don't exactly know what is a good and healthy gut microbiota because the way that the production is and the state of the art of the knowledge on the gut microbiota in pigs. So it's very hard to tell. We know it's important, but what type of bacteria, what type of profiles. Sometimes you have pigs with different microbiota that you would look at on paper and you'd be, maybe they won't fare too well. And they have very nice growth and they don't get sick. And sometimes you have good microbiota and pigs still get sick. So it's hard to actually very pinpoint what is going on.
Swine Veterinary Partners comprises 4 well-established clinics across Canada: Precision Veterinary Services, Premier SHP, Demeter, Ontario, and Demeter, Quebec.
I actually agree with your comments that we can regard the gut microbiota as another organ within the pig. And then, of course, when you then look at the importance of that organ, certain things may go in and certain things may go out. You mentioned vitamins, you mentioned other co-products or byproducts from fermentation. Are any of those particularly good, and are any of those particularly bad when it comes to health and performance of these metabolites that are being formed?
Oh, being good or bad. I mean, all the when you hear like SCFA, small chain fatty acid, they are definitely good because they are a staple of energy. So these are being produced by the fermentable bacteria that are later, like in the column or in the cecum. And they become food and energy for the cells themselves in the intestine. And so these are crucial to give energy to the pigs. So it's very interesting because you have like all these non-digestible things by the pigs, and they still produce energy at the end for the pig by the intestinal microbiota. And a lot of these have been seen to be important in immune system activation. And also some of them are, for example, for the case of Salmonella, they are inhibiting Salmonella virulence. So if you have a large amount of these being produced, technically you should be able to kick out some foodborne pathogen or pathogen in general. In terms of vitamin, well, there's vitamins that are not I have a blank on top of my head, but there are essential production. There is essential production of vitamins. For example, E. coli. If you don't have any E. coli, you will lack vitamins that you cannot absorb through food. You need your gut microbiota to synthesize them.
Anything particularly bad about protein fermentation that comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a very big and hot topic about protein. Protein fermentation it's getting more and more research, and we are starting to work on that. We've shown that if there is too much overflow of protein going through the colon, which means that these proteins, they don't get absorbed in the ileum, for example, and they get back into the late, and they're not all that supposed to be there. And the byproduct for the animals themselves doesn't seem that bad, but the result is more gas and more ammoniac emissions, and that's pretty bad for the environment. And also, we've been able to see that the pathogens that lives down in the section of the intestine, they like these proteins a lot. So it's very tricky because you don't want to have like not enough proteins, right? Because the pig will not grow to its full potential. But at the end, if you give too much and there's overflow, you will have problems probably with pathogens. On that topic, we did an experiment in poultry, actually, and we used a protease in poultries that were contaminated with Campylobacter jejuni, a super important foodborne pathogen. And the article is in our second round of revision now. It should come out. But what we saw is that we were able to reduce by almost 2-log reduction of Campylobacter just by switching like the protein profiles by using the protease. So we're trying to do the same thing right now in pigs and see if if you switch the way the proteins are being digested, do they get better absorbed in the upper layer, in the upper part of the gut, and if there is less overflow, maybe you can reduce salmonella or something else in the gut that could be harmful for the pigs and for also environment.
So from a food safety perspective, how does the microbiota impact the presence or reduction of foodborne pathogens in pigs, such as salmonella or E. coli?
Yes, so there's some protective effect to some way. You can see that pigs, depending on the microbiota they get during nursery and also just at the start of fattening, some microbiota seems to be more resilient to foodborne pathogen. The trick here is that foodborne pathogens, they're just normal inhabitants of an intestinal microbiota. They like it there. And the animals, they don't care all that much, unless they get Salmonella typhimurium for their pigs, of course. But the other types, they just go by and they break themselves very well into the microbiota. So our job now is more about like trying to see if you get like all association that facilitate that or association that reduce that. And we don't have enough answer right now to be able to really tell you need that kind of bacteria. And the other thing about that is that it's very challenging because pigs varies from farm, to province, and we have a very large country, right? So when you look at, for example, probiotic production, it is strain dependent, the impact on the microbiota and the animals. So imagine you have like coast to coast different pigs in Canada that have different strains of bacteria and each have a different effect. So it's very hard to say, well, in Canada, we should aim for that kind of bacteria because we need to know exactly the strain. And unfortunately now for sequencing technology, getting down to the strain level to say this is that type of lactobacillus that will impact negatively that pathogenic E. coli, we're not there yet.
So to follow up on that, of course, in Canada, we kind of have east-west, east feeding more corn-based diets, west feeding more wheat and barley-based diets. Your suggestion is then for each of at least those two types of scenarios, there might be a different ideal microbiota profile to prevent some colonization resistance against these foodborne pathogens?
Definitely. You need to have like regional profiles to favor or not. And even then, it will depend on so much factor in nutrition. So it's very hard to stabilize it down to the strain level where you could have like a very big impact. So now we're just trying to look at major families and what we do not want to see and what we want to see. For example, like things that are called lactospiraceae or ruminococcaceae that are very good at fermenting, and they are pretty good at getting FCFA, so they are part of a healthy gut. But of course, it depends on what you get in the feed. It depends on tons of things. Like we don't even know what's the effect of toxins or a mycotoxin, for example, in a feed on the gut microbiota. These levels will vary even within a province. So it's a very hard topic, but so interesting, and we're getting like little bricks here and there.
Yeah, but then if you then go back to regarding the microbiota as an organ, within that organ you can end up with different good scenarios of microbiota profile and keep the foodborne pathogens at a low level. Would you agree with?
Definitely, we can do that, especially for health and disease. The good thing now is that we are entering the area of artificial intelligence, and the one of the challenge of that is feeding the machine enough data. So once we get enough data, I guess we can start to try to get like some time of a profile. And I'm just going crazy here, but technically you could like enter feed composition, and then if you have like some and where you are and the kind of pigs you get and the type of barn and etc., it could tell you maybe you should adjust for that by adding less protein or adding an enzyme or changing the maybe less corn a bit. That would be the best case scenario, but we need thousands and thousands of data. We're trying to get there, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, interesting. So what strategies are currently being used or being researched to modulate the gut microbiota in pigs to improve both animal health and food safety outcomes?
So we're trying different things. There's been like the classics, like essential oils and organic acid. They work to some extent, but but not all the time. The key being that to manipulate the gut microbiota, you need to do it at key places in the animal life where there is a stress. When they are under the sow, you can see like if you take pigs from a sow and you follow them up to the slaughterhouse, you can still relate these pig microbiota to their initial sow. And after that, there is at weaning, of course, there's a huge change. And then when they get into finishing, they also, sometimes the group changes, so they get stressed. But if you don't act fast and hard on these key places, the gut microbiota is very resilient. So to change it drastically, it takes like very intensive efforts, such as fecal transfer or things like that, to completely change it. And then the other places we're going is nutrition. So it's definitely we talked about protein reduction and maybe using alternative feed ingredients, but we need to master that and try to see how all of that is impacting the gut microbiota. And I guess it would be easier somehow to get a better and a stable gut microbiota by working on feed, maybe helping the gut microbiota with an adapted probiotics, or maybe a hint of essential or organic acid just to stabilize it. But the bulk of the work, I guess, is going to come from nutrition.
Well, just to follow up on your comment around stress, certainly around weaning stress can also be happen at the same time with very low appetite. So how bad are out of feed events or pigs not eating relative to maintaining a stable microbiota?
Yeah, it's bad. It's the only word. It's bad. It's not just about the gut microbiota. Feeding piglets is also to continue stimulate their intestinal cells so that they keep developing. So it's not just an issue about gain weight or microbiota. It's also biologically very important. So you won't get, if you don't have a good microbiota and the pig is not being fed, that's going to cause multiple problems, create a lot of opportunity for pathogen, probably reduce also vaccine efficiency because immune system is also related with the gut system. So yeah, that's definitely is bad. So yeah, you must make sure the piglets eat and as fast as possible.
Have you done any research in looking at what would happen if pigs are fasted or growing pigs don't get food for 1 or 2 days?
No, unfortunately, I haven't worked on that. What we're trying to work now I'm switching and I'm working with this with Marie-Pierre Letourneau-Montminy from ULaval. We're trying to get at winning stage as a digestible as possible feeds to trying to help the pigs to get feel better when they get that. It's very challenging because there's already a lot of highly digestible ingredient you can use, but a lot of them are animal based, and animal producers want to try to go away from that because of the risk of disease transmission and other pathogens. But at the same time, plant-based is a lot harder on the microbiota. Especially if you start from milk and then you start using plant-based, it's gonna hurt the gut a lot physically, increase inflammation and things like that. So the next project I'm trying to submit is to see how we can try to increase digestibility to make it easier. And definitely, there's probably something also that we can do about the taste. So that's a part of research that's been left out a bit, I guess. And especially for piglets, you can try a lot of things, but if it doesn't smell appetizing enough, they won't eat. So maybe feed presentation would be more important, and also work on behavior to see what kind of ingredients solicitate the pigs to eat. Maybe they don't have much nutritional value, but if the piglets eats more, it's better to start off like that.
Yeah. So in other words, pigs eating is already a big plus for maintaining gut health.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's the basics.
How early in a pig's life does microbiota management matter, and what interventions show promise during the nursing and weaning phases?
It's before they are born. So there is a lot of work now going on in the sow themselves, because we can clearly see a trend with the sow. The piglets, even at the end of fattening, you can, if you take different piglets and then you follow them up until fattening, and you can have different sows related to these. We saw in some of our research that you can still guess which sow they were from blindly at the end of fattening. So there's a very big importance of the sow itself. So everything that's working on the sow is very important. Milk quality that the piglets get, vaginal microbiota health, and also the environment, because that's where the piglets are born and where they will acquire their first bacteria. So that's the one place I see eventually getting as much attention as possible. It's hard. It's not, we haven't really clear indication that if you do exactly this, you will get there, because again, the sow depends on the number of parity they had. It depends on the environment and depends on the genetics. So there's still a lot of things to look at, but sow microbiota management is very interesting for me. I guess there's good future for it.
Yeah, interesting. Did you ever see any data or did any research on if you within the same sow herd, how much variation there is between the sows in their microbiota profile?
We did it once where we're trying to follow sow microbiota in relation to salmonella, and then again, In microbiota, being different, it depends on the scale you're looking. So, for example, if you look within a barn, you can see very different sow, because they are housed in different places, different parity. If you take them at different time of gestation, they're going to have like different hormone profiles. It's going to also affect the gut microbiota. But if you look at like just on a farm, you can see individuals that are very far away. But then if you add another farm, these might feel very close by compared to others. So it's very hard to tell exactly. You will see differences, but the scale, you need to like have outsiders or, points of common comparison to make sure. So there is a difference, but when you get normally the biggest difference is more like farm based. So sows that are within the same maternity, they will be like same water, probably same kind of feed formulation, same environment. So yeah, so it's gonna be closer.
Any association with colostrum intake and maternal transfer of antibodies with what would happen with gut microbiota right during lactation even?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly on top of my head, but definitely colostrum is important just simply because of its sheer composition in nutrients. So definitely there could be something, but then again, it's also, how can I say, you must have a responsive microbiota. You may change something in one farm, it's going to have a huge impact because the microbiota is okay to be manipulated with that. But if you change the microbiota of one farm, maybe it's not going to react the same way. So it's very hard to tell with precision.
Yeah, okay. So looking ahead, how do you see microbiome research shaping the future of swine production and consumer safety standards in Canada and around the world?
It's going to be a routine part. It's like doing 16S analysis because it's cheaper than whole metagenomic analysis. For me, it's going to be a bit of a routine, just like qPCR has become. It's getting down, and people are very interested in see if you do something, what's going to happen next. So for me, it's a good idea, because if we can start to have like uniform protocol for microbiota analysis or ways to bridge the different protocols together, we can build like something. We can understand what's going on in Alberta, what's going on in Quebec, and then we can maybe try to find big trends that we can start working on. So the challenge now is more like everybody's working a bit in their corner. And then, for example, I wasn't working with Marie-Pierre, but I should have been, because yes, I'm doing like pathogen, but she's doing global nutrition. Why weren't we working together before that? And then we probably need to work with immunity people also, that will have to look, okay, but we have that, but do you change like in a response to vaccine, or do you delay? Does the immune system have enough energy left to start when it's needed? Things like that. So we need to, microbiota is going to be like a cornerstone, maybe not like the prime focus of all research, but it should be incorporated, I guess, here and there, because it's like we said at the beginning, it's a new organ and it matters.
So if you go back to, I don't know if this has been done or not, but incidences with foodborne pathogens, of course, we're talking about food products that may have one way or the other some gut microbiome in the food product. Has that ever been traced back to what actually happened on the farm that increased, for example, salmonella in guts of pigs?
Not that precisely. We know that good SCFA producers, just as Brutirat, are going to fight salmonella, but it's gonna be a very hard thing to do, because it's a natural inhabitant. It's like saying, okay, we're gonna get rid of lactobacillus, because lactobacillus, when it gets on a carcass, it may hinder meat quality and shelf time of the carcass. So it's very hard to do. I guess it's going to be more like manipulating the gut microbiota to make it less fit for salmonella, but completely exclude it I'm not sure we're going to get there unless we have like a specific consortia of bacteria that we know that they will work together and give no place at all to Salmonella. So I see like gut microbiota more like a support to other strategies to fight back.
Well, thanks for the conversation, Dr. Thibodeau, and look forward to see you again in the future.
Merci beaucoup.